So we start with Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim wa ad-dallin. Sadaqallahu al-'aliyyul 'azim. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعن الله ولا أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. So this is now part 17 of our ongoing series of discussions inspired by the book Misbah ash-Sharia of Imam al-Sadiq, or attributed to Imam al-Sadiq, which means the lantern of the path. And this is our third discussion on the subject of Wilayah, which means guardianship or authority. As I say at the start of each of these, it's very, very strongly recommended. You might even say it's necessary that the previous parts are either viewed or read or studied in some way before we proceed with this one, to avoid any confusion or misunderstanding within this subject matter. The nature of the subject matter, the style of discussion, all of this requires that each part build upon the one that came before. So once more, I really, really strongly recommend that anyone reading the write-up or watching this video or listening to it, please go back and, if you haven't, go back and listen to or view or read the previous parts and then continue with this one. But nevertheless, please give me a salawat and we'll have a brief recap, inshallah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So in this session, we're going to be continuing the exploration of Wilayah, or guardianship authority, as part of our series of discussions, as we've said. And this has been inspired by our desire to understand both what is due to Allah as well as the limits He has set, so that we can accord Him that which is due to Him, as well as adhere to His limits. Now, this necessitated that we discuss and work to understand our underlying ideology. And in light of that, we studied Tawheed, or monotheism, Adala, or divine justice, and Nubuwah, prophethood. And these three have built the necessary groundwork for our current discussions on Wilayah, guardianship or authority. As I said, this is the third session that we will be having on Wilayah. And thus far, we've garnered some key insights and understandings from our previous last two sessions. First of all, Wilayah as a divine principle. It's something which extends from God's ultimate authority to His chosen representatives, ensuring the continuity of divine governance. Wilayah and society. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, his family, and his righteous companions, established not just a faith, not just a religion, but a Tawheed-oriented society that was governed by divine principles. Wilayah and the survival of faith. Throughout history, Wilayah has protected the integrity of the faith and the people that adhere to this faith, preserving unity, safeguarding believers from ideological deviation. And the Quranic command for Wilayah, we looked at various Quranic verses, including the verses from Surah al-Mumtahina, which is the chapter of the woman to be examined, the 60th chapter of the Quran, verses 1 to 6, and Surah al-Ma'idah, the chapter of the table spread, the 5th chapter of Quran, verses 51 to 56. Which emphasize aligning with God's chosen authority while rejecting allegiance to those who oppose divine guidance. The discussion further explored the internal and external aspects of Wilayah. So you have internal unity. The Ummah, the community, must remain united and resolve conflicts justly within itself. External independence. The Muslim community or Muslim world must not fall under non-Islamic influence, but maintain self-reliance and independence in governance, economy, and social structure. We looked at the concept of leadership in Islam very briefly. Wilayah necessitates a leader, an imam, who serves as the heart of the ummah, ensuring all efforts align with divine objectives. And the Quranic concept of Wilayah supports the Shia understanding that the Imam is divinely appointed, as illustrated in Surah al-Ma'idah, the chapter of the table spread, which is the 5th chapter of Quran, verse 55, which refers to Imam Ali, the first Imam of the Muslims. Leadership in Islam, yani Wilayah, is either explicitly appointed, as is the case of Imam Ali and the infallible Imams from the family of Prophet Muhammad, or based on qualifications, as we can see in the system of Marja'iyya or Wilayat al-Faqih, which we will cover later on. The role of Wilayah in Islamic governance. The Ummah must ensure that leadership adheres to divine law. This is very, very important. Governance must be based on Quranic principles and not influenced by third-party external ideologies. We looked at historical examples such as the early Muslims' response to, for example, the Roman economic threats, and highlighted the need and the necessity of being self-sufficient. And we looked at the importance of strengthening the bond with the Imam. Wilayah is not something which is just theoretical. It's not just a theoretical allegiance, but it's a practical adherence to the teachings of the Imam, which ultimately are the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. True wilayah means following the Imam in thought, action, and deed. And the Quranic commandment for wilayah ensures that those who uphold it are ultimately victorious. In this session, we will explore a subject that I'm calling the paradise of wilayah. We discuss how embracing true wilayah revitalizes a society and individuals and brings them closer to a Tawheed-oriented existence. We pray that in His infinite mercy, He fill our hearts with vigor and desire to improve and learn, and He help us to understand when the subjects become complex, and that He grant us the patience to persist and push through, even when everything appears too difficult or too confusing. In His most beautiful of names, we proceed. Please give me a salawat and we continue.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So the verse of Quran that forms the subject, or as we say, the unwan of today's session is the 41st verse of Surah Al-Hajj, which is the chapter of the pilgrimage. It's the 22nd chapter of the Quran. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, those who, if we granted them power in the land, will maintain the prayer, give the zakat, bid what is right and forbid what is wrong, and with God rests the outcome of all matters. Now, there are a number of points worthy of mention and indeed discussion following on from our previous discussions on this subject of wilayah. Firstly, a general description of the society that has wilayah and the individual that has wilayah. And secondly, an overview of a society that has wilayah. As we've said in the previous two sessions, we discussed this topic. We reflected on the meaning of Quranic verses and extracted meanings from them in light of the teachings of Prophet Muhammad and his family on the subject of wilayah. Put simply, on the basis of Quran and Hadith, that is traditions, narrations, and or sayings of the Prophet Muhammad and or his family, we saw that wilayah has several aspects. One of these is that in a Muslim society, there should not be connections with elements outside of itself, control connections. There should not be a reliance on non-Muslims. However, we did explain that this lack of connection does not mean there should be no relationship whatsoever. We would never say that the Islamic world should withdraw from the global political and economic stages and, indeed have no relationship at all with any non-Muslim nation, country, or power. No, not at all. We're not saying this. This is not what we mean, nor what we had meant in previous sessions, and we've been very clear about this. Rather, the issue is that of dependency. Muslims should not be dependent upon or subservient to any non-Muslim power. Muslims must stand on their own 2 feet. Another aspect of wilayah is the strong and harmonious connection of Muslims to each other. In other words, when we speak or think about an Islamic society, what we call Wilayah is the unity and commonality of the Islamic society. Just as we read in sayings from the Prophet Muhammad and others, which says, for example, this is one which is found across both the Sunnah and the Shia. It's available in Sahih Muslim and in Usul al-Kafi, where Rasulullah is known to have said, the similitude of the faithful in their mutual affection and concern for one another is like unto a single body. The Islamic Ummah, the Islamic nation, is like a single body or structure whose components are joined to one another like a single edifice. Muslims must be united. They must be bound to each other with firm ties. They must be as one, united against the attacks and schemes of the enemies. This is what we discussed in the previous sessions. We also learnt from Surah Al-Ma'idah, the chapter of this table spread, that the faithful are, quote, humble towards the faithful and stern towards the faithless. There is yet another verse which makes this even clearer, and this is verse number 29 of Surah Al-Fath, which is the 48th chapter of the Quran, and it means the chapter of the conquest. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Muhammad is the messenger of God, is the apostle of God, and those who are with him are hard against the faithless and merciful amongst themselves. You see them bowing and prostrating in worship, seeking God's grace and His pleasure. Their mark is visible on their faces from the effect of prostration. Such is their description in the Torah and their description in the Gospel. Like a tillage that sends out its shoots and builds them up, and they grow stout and settle on their stalks, impressing the sowers, so that He may enrage the faithless by them. God has promised those of them who have faith and do righteous deeds forgiveness and a great reward. So the beginning of this verse says, Muhammad is the apostle of God, and those who are with him are hard against the faithless and merciful amongst themselves. When they are confronted by an external threat, you will find nothing more impenetrable or firm than they are. You will find nothing more powerful or committed than they are. They are truly independent. However, when it comes to dealing with each other and the different branches of the Islamic society, there is no harshness, there is no sternness. On the contrary, the faithful influence each other and call one another towards goodness and righteousness. They advise one another to follow whatever is true and that which is good. They encourage each other to stand up to whatever is evil and corrupt. And they look out for each other, they look after each other. This is exactly like the example we gave in a previous session about the mountain climbers, how they tie themselves to each other as they ascend the mountain, so that if one of them, God forbid, loses their footing and slips, rather than plunging several hundred meters to their death, the others are able to hold on to them and pull them to safety. So the faithful hold on to one another as tightly as possible. They make sure no one slips, no one gets lost, no one gets left behind, that no one goes hungry or thirsty. They see if there is any amongst them who is weaker in their thinking, in their material well-being, in their knowledge of the truth. And if there is someone like this, then everyone strives to help them and guide them onto the right way. Put simply, the faithful are like members of the same family, of the same very functional family. And this is another manifestation of wilayah within the Islamic society. Another aspect of wilayah that was mentioned again in our previous sessions, and I know this might sound repetitive, the reason I'm going back over some of these sessions is because of the importance of these points and the fact that they don't ordinarily get discussed in sessions that we have in various centers and everything. So to make sure that everyone understands this correctly, properly, there is a little bit of repetition, at least in the beginning of today's session. Please give me a salawat if you're still with me.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So another aspect of wilayah that was mentioned in our previous session and that we indicated was a very important aspect to understand. In fact, you could argue it's the most important of all the aspects and the one that guarantees the existence of the others, is that the Islamic society needs a central leadership with very specific qualifications. This is because the Islamic society must be like a single body whose constituent parts are joined to one another internally, and which externally is like a fist, like a single mass facing the opposing forces. This unity is essential in an Islamic society. But unity cannot come about without there being a focal point for all of this society's energies. If there is a different power in control of each corner of the Islamic society, then these different parts will eventually come apart, separate from each other, and take different paths. The same thing would happen if the central nervous system of the human being was altered, so that instead of a single controlling organ, that is the brain, there were two, one for the right side, one for the left, as an example. When both sides are controlled by one brain, it is easy for one to let them work in harmony. This is because both sides are receiving instructions from the same single source. If someone wants to, for example, carry a heavy load from one side of the room to another, they can manage this because both sides of their body are working together in harmony with each other. One hand grips one side of the load, the other hand grips the other, and they both move the load in the same direction. And then both sides set it down together. On the other hand, imagine for a moment if there were two different centers for our central nervous system, one for the right hand side, one for the left. How can the right and left side work together? Consider the right hand goes to pick up this heavy load, while the left hand sits immobile, because each of them are receiving orders from different centers of control. The right hand tells the left to come and help, but the left pays no attention, does not answer. The more the right hand insists that the left helps, the more adamant the left becomes that it will not. Now imagine if two sides of the body are facing a common foe. The left hand calls on the right to help to fight it. But the right hand remembers when the left didn't help it lift the load, so it does nothing. Do you see how if the human body had two centers of control, what that body would be reduced to? It cannot even create a load from one place to another, let alone protect itself from a foe. If the Islamic society wants to defend itself from an enemy, but one part of that society wants to launch an attack, for example, tomorrow, while another wants to attack the day after tomorrow, this will not be of any use. If the society wants to be like a single body to fight its enemy, then there must be a single point of leadership that directs all the faculties of that society against its enemy. If each part of the society wants to attack on a different day, one today, another tomorrow, another one the day after tomorrow, and so on, then the enemy can rest easy. This actually reminded me when I was writing this of a story that the great sage Rumi told. And it's a story of three people who went into a grape orchard together. And in order to get rid of them, the owner of the orchard, who didn't really want them there, used a bit of trickery to separate them from each other. Then he could easily chase them off one by one. And how many times has this happened in the history of Islam? So if the Islamic community wants to secure its well-being and protect itself from harm, its constituent members must be joined to one another internally so that externally it forms a single body against its enemies. And if the whole of the Islamic society is to work together as one, then it requires a single controlling organ to direct it and marshal all of its constituent parts towards a single goal. Whether these goals are intellectual or practical, and whether this is for the sake of its own life-giving activities or to face an external threat, all of its members must be connected to the single leadership. That center of control sits within the fabric of the Islamic society. It directs all of the wings of the society. It employs each individual as befits his or her status and ability, and it prevents disagreements. It directs all of the energies of that society towards a singular goal. This leader must be appointed by God. He must be a scholar. He must be aware. He must be trustworthy and protected from sinning. He must be someone who fully embodies all the different elements of Islam. He must be a physical manifestation of the Quran. So what name do we call this leader? We call him a wali. Therefore, wilayah in the Islamic society, in the two senses that we've described, necessitates the existence of a wali in that society. This is yet another dimension of the issue of wilayah. Now, this has now completed the summary of what we've had and what we've discussed thus far within our discussions on wilayah. The question that logically follows on from this discussion is, do we have wilayah or not? Now, you or I as individuals might have wilayah, but does our society as a whole have wilayah or not? You might be wondering, what is the difference? Is there a difference? Yes, there is. It is possible for one organ to be healthy. But just because one organ is healthy, it does not mean that the entire body is healthy. This is the first point. Secondly, even if the organ itself is healthy, if the body is sick, then the organ cannot fully benefit from its own health. These are 2 points that we need to consider and reflect upon. So first of all, we must ask what an individual who has wilayah looks like. What kind of person is he or she? This way we can know whether or not we have wilayah or not as individuals. Once we have discussed this, it will be clear, God willing, inshallah, that you and I have wilayah, inshallah. Then we must ask how society must be in order to have wilayah. Now, there is no reason to suppose that a person who lives in a society without wilayah cannot attain wilayah. We're not saying there are no problems with this, only that there is nothing to rule out that possibility. But has this person fulfilled their moral duty? That is the question. Can he or she have wilayah while living in a society that is deprived of it? Is this the right way for a person to live? If someone lives in a society that has wilayah, but knows of others that live in a society that is without wilayah, and if he feels or he or she feels no sense of responsibility to those without wilayah, does this lack of a sense of responsibility not clash with the very principle of wilayah itself? These are questions that Muslim men and Muslim women, and especially the Muslim youth, must reflect upon. Covering these subjects in the detail they need to be fully discussed is an arduous task and would take many, many sessions. However, inshallah, God willing, we can attempt to cover them in a way that at the very least plants the seeds of reflection and helps us move towards a solution and find a path forward. So the subjects we must discuss, that we must consider, are as follows. Firstly, when a person has wilayah, what kind of person are they? How should I be when I have wilayah? How would I be when I do not have wilayah? Secondly, we must ask how we must be if our society, in the sense of a group of people who have gathered together, be it online or in person, is to have wilayah. And what is it like when our society does not have wilayah? What form does a society take when there is a wali and the people follow the wali in accordance with the teachings of Islam? In what form and in what condition is a society without wilayah as prescribed by the teachings of Islam? These are 2 subjects. The third subject, when an individual person has wilayah, is his moral duty discharged merely by him having wilayah as an individual? Does he not have a duty to create a society that is founded on wilayah? And the fourth one, if there is an individual person with wilayah who lives in a society that is deprived of wilayah, but does not feel any sense of responsibility to instill wilayah in that society, does this absence of a sense of responsibility invalidate his own personal individual wilayah? It doesn't matter whether other individuals with wilayah are doing this or not. The question is whether the lack of a sense of responsibility, this lack of a sense of duty, weakens or impairs his or or her own wilayah in any way. These are topics we must discuss. We will focus on one or two of them. However, as we discuss them, I want you to compare the way in which wilayah is presented in the Quran and the Hadith, which is the traditions and or teachings of Prophet Muhammad and his family, and the way in which it is imagined by those people who just want to enjoy an easy life. So please give me a salawat and we can continue.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.
So some people, they imagine that having wilayah means just crying in the majlis and gatherings that we hold for the Prophet's family. They think that wilayah means when the name of the Prophet's family is mentioned, they can say, peace and blessings be upon them. They think this is all there is. They think that having wilayah means that a person loves the Prophet's family in their heart. They think that's all it takes. Now, of course, it is a duty to love the Prophet's family. It is a duty to mention their names with respect. It is important to hold gatherings in their names, to mourn their deaths and celebrate their births, to learn from their lives, to commemorate and remember their deeds, to weep over their tragedies, their martyrdoms, and their sufferings. All of this is necessary. But all of these by themselves do not constitute wilayah. Wilayah is something much more than these. When you sit in a majlis of Imam Hussein, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him, and shed tears, you are doing something good. It is good and proper to cry for him. However, you are doing something very bad indeed if you believe that shedding these tears is enough to qualify for having wilayah. I want us to try and understand what is being said over here, especially for those people whose minds are, unfortunately, under the influence of the slogans and banners of some ignorant and or corrupt preachers. They should pay very close attention over here. Let it not be said that anyone is opposing the shedding of tears for Imam Hussein or any of the Ahlul Bayt. No, not at all. If anyone is opposed to this, we are not opposed to it at all. We say that the shedding of tears for Imam Hussein is enough sometimes to save a whole nation of people. Of course, this is something Imam Khomeini also said. If we look in history, we look at the Tawabun movement, the penitent movement, following the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. They gathered at the grave of Imam Hussein in Karbala and spent 2 or 3 days weeping for him. But what was the outcome of their weeping? The outcome was that they made a pact of blood and self-sacrifice. They said, we are going to the battlefield and we are never going to turn back. We pledge not to return alive. This is crying for Imam Hussein. No one opposes this. No reasonable person opposes the mention of the names of Imam Hussein and Imam Ali with reverence. Not only does no Shia oppose this, no Sunni opposes this either. Indeed, no disbeliever opposes this. Anyone who knows these people acknowledges that their names are worthy of being mentioned with respect. Indeed, a family whose legacy is martyrdom, a family whose dearest memories are of self-sacrifice, forbearance, selflessness, and sacrifice for the sake of God, a family all of whose energies and being are directed purely for the sake of God, is this not a family that any human being would hold in the highest esteem? Indeed, they must. I promise you, really, I promise you, that if we, as people in Europe, the Americas, and other parts of the world, any country outside the Muslim world, a place where Islam is not dominant and is in a minority, if you go to any of these countries and tell them, any of our countries, and tell them, there was someone called Ali ibn Abi Talib, and you tell them about his life, tell them his life story, and you will see how they will respect and praise such a person to the extent that his name will remain lodged in their minds. This is not something only for the Shia. Do you think the Shia have done anything outstanding and great simply by saying peace be upon him after hearing his name mentioned? Is this something momentous is this something momentous that has been accomplished? Do we think that Wilayah is nothing more than this? What a mistake. The Wilayah that takes the human being to paradise is not this. Yes, it can be considered an important component of the totality of Wilayah, as can the weeping for Imam Hussein. But some people, without realizing it, God willing, without realizing it, God willing, not intentionally, distort these issues. The matter of weeping for Imam Hussein is something people who oppose the Prophet's household with their words rather than their ideas distort in this way. They make Shi'ism and Wilayah seem very shallow and restrict Wilayah to these issues. They restrict it to the point where it is so small and so narrow that it hardly seems worthy of being considered one of the fundamental teachings of Islam. So let us now look at Wilayah in an individual. Wilayah in an individual person refers to that person's connection in thought and deed, yani practice, with the wali. Find the wali, recognize God's wali, that person who is the rightful wali of the Islamic society, and identify him. Once you have identified him, then your thoughts, your practices, your deeds, and your spirituality, your everything must be guided by him. Connect yourself to him. Follow him. His fight is your fight. His friend is your friend. His struggle is your struggle. His enemy is your enemy. His side is your side. If you see yourself in this position, then you have wilayah. Do you see? Do you understand? This is what it means for someone to have wilayah. Know the wali, know what the wali thinks, align your thoughts and stances with his, know what the wali thinks, align your thoughts with his, act with the wali, align your acts with the wali's acts, connect yourself to the wali in both thought and deed, in both your mindset and your practice. This is what it means to have wilayah. Who here, listening to this or watching this, who here can or will raise his or her hand and claim that they have wilayah? Who here will raise his or her hand and admit and accept that their wilayah is incomplete? This bears a lot of reflection. Tragically, we have reduced wilayah to feeling affection for Imam Ali, for Ali ibn Abi Talib, and shedding a tear for him, even though our actions are the opposite of his, even if our thoughts and ideas are antithetical to his. Do we dare to call this wilayah? We have made a myth and superstition for our own benefit, to keep us content and happy. So we can say we are the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib and claim that somehow we have his wilayah. That way we can please ourselves, we can engage in navel gazing, we can placate ourselves, we can quench the raging fire that should be burning within our hearts and souls, a fire that drives us to be like Imam Ali, to follow his way, to understand and have his thoughts. We can please ourselves with the idea that everything that has been promised to the followers of Imam Ali is also promised to us for sure. After all, don't we read in the narrative of the cloak, Hadith al-Kisa? One of the lines is, so Imam Ali said, "Verily by the Lord of the Kaaba, we and our followers are the successful ones." And elsewhere in the same Hadith al-Kisa, the narrative of the cloak, it says, Imam Ali, peace be upon him, said, "Then we have won and attained. I swear it by God. So have our adherents. They have won and attained success in this world and the hereafter. I swear it by the Lord of the Kaaba." Those who think in this superficial manner, and those who think in this superficial manner, truly they are foolish. This type of thinking is foolish and misguided. Indeed, it does not do justice to Imam Ali, doesn't do justice to Ali ibn Abi Talib. In fact, In fact, we could go further and say that it is an injustice to Islam and to Allah and to God, because it is an injustice to the fundamental teaching of Islam, that is Wilayah. We are not ready to understand Wilayah as it must be understood, and prefer it to be a panacea that makes us feel like we're doing well. Indeed, in Quran, in Surah Al-Kahf, the chapter of the cave, God speaks about the greatest losers in their works in this regard. In Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th chapter of Quran, the chapter of the cave, verses 103 to 104, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, "Say, shall we inform you who are the biggest losers in their works? Those whose efforts are misguided in the life of this world while they suppose they are doing good." Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam Sadiq, peace and blessings be upon him, told his followers, those who had wilayah, whose value he recognized and who he held in high esteem, that wilayah required action. He said that he who acted righteously was the ally, was the wali of the household of the Prophet Muhammad, while that person who did not act righteously was the enemy of the Prophet's household. This is exactly what we're trying to say over here. Imam as-Sadiq explained wilayah in such a way that the difference between wilayah in his vocabulary and wilayah in the vocabulary of the ignorant person who thinks he is living his life in the name of Imam as-Sadiq could not be more stark, could not be more clearer. Why do we not understand the true meaning of wilayah? Why do we not grasp the profundity of this Islamic principle? Why are we content to ossify and regress, to stay away from Islam and to lose this world and the next? Indeed, when reflecting, sometimes I worry that we spend our lives in hell in this world out of hopes of paradise in the next, only to find when we are brought back to life on the day of judgment and we see our deeds for what they actually are, that our hopes come to nothing, that there is no paradise for us. What a regretful situation. How wretched would our situation be in that case? So the wilayah of an individual person is his connection and relationship with the wali. He must be connected to the wali. This is first of all. Please give me a salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل.
But what does wilayah mean at a societal level? What is wilayah in society? Wilayah in society means that the wali in the society is, first of all, known, in the sense that the people know that this person is the wali. And second, that the wali guides and directs all of the energies and activities of that society and serves as the axis around which all elements of that society arrange themselves. The wali should be the center who issues all directives and implements all the laws in that society. He should be a point at which all the veins and sinews of a society converge. All should look towards him and all should follow him. He should be the one who ignites the engine of life in that society. He should be the driver and the leader of the caravan of life in that society. This society, such a society, is one that has wilayah. After the Prophet, the commander of the faithful, Imam Ali, was deprived of his rightful place for 25 years as the leader of the society the Prophet had founded. After the Prophet, the Islamic society spent 25 years without wilayah. It essentially vanished. In that society, Salman al-Farisi was an individual who had wilayah. Abu Dharr was an individual who had wilayah. But what about the Islamic society? The Islamic society after the Prophet did not have wilayah for 25 years. Only when the commander of the faithful returned to rule did the Islamic society have wilayah once more. To what extent? To the extent that Imam Ali was a source of guidance and direction for the society. The wilayah of a society is nothing other than this. When the Imam rules over a society, when the Imam is the source of commands and prohibitions of a society, when all the different branches of that society go back to the Imam, when the Imam is actually organizing the affairs of the society, when it is the Imam who ties the battle standard, when it is the Imam who gives the order to attack, when it is the Imam who writes the peace treaty, it is then that this society can be said to have Wilayah. In any other set of circumstances, this society does not have Wilayah. Now, if we have Wilayah in our society, then we must truly thank God. Truly, we must thank God. But if we do not have it, if we do not have Wilayah in our society, then we must take steps to bring it about. If you have been blessed with this divine gift, be grateful to God. There is no greater blessing than Wilayah. Let me try and explain why Wilayah is such a great blessing, so that if you do not have it, you will do whatever it takes to obtain it for yourself and human society. We must try to live like Imam Ali. We must try to follow Imam Ali's example. We must try to create a strong bond between ourselves and Imam Ali, who is God's wali for us. This requires effort. It requires struggle. It requires sacrifice. I can tell you that the Imams themselves, after the martyrdom of the commander of the faithful, Imam Ali, all struggled in the path of Wilayah without exception. All of their efforts were for the sake of keeping this Wilayah alive. And we will learn more about this when we move on to the next section in our series on Wilayah, when we discuss this notion of the 250-year-old man. All of their efforts were for keeping this Wilayah alive, to revive the Islamic society, to nurture this sapling we call a human being in the garden of this world, with the life-giving water of Wilayah so that it would grow tall and thrive. This was the goal that the Imams struggled their entire lives for. And like I said, we're going to learn, inshallah, more about this and about their struggle when we discuss their lives, as outlined by Imam Khamenei in his series of discussions titled The 250-Year-Old Man, God Willing. When we speak about making an effort to bring Wilayah into society, this does not mean that we should sit here and stoically tell John, David, Jawad, and Abdullah what to do. This is not how Wilayah comes about. In fact, by doing this, we only make Wilayah harder to obtain. The way to bring about Wilayah is by striving to give power to God's wali, to the wali God has appointed. In the previous session, we discussed how God appoints the wali. Sometimes God names the wali specifically, while at other times he designates the wali by signs, by his characteristics and attributes. Sometimes God designates the wali like he designated Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Imam Sajjad, and so on until Imam al-Hujjah, Jalla ta'ala farajahu sharif, may God hasten his return. He designated them by name and a specific description of them. Other times, God does not specify his wali by name. Instead, he says, as per the letter of Imam Hassan al-Askari, which is found in many of the books of hadith and is considered completely reliable, it says, as for those among the jurists or among the learned who protect themselves from sin, safeguard their religion, oppose their desires, and obey the command of their master, then the people may follow them. He designates the wali in this way. This also means they are appointed by God, so that the wali can be appointed by name or by qualification. So that you can determine for yourself, for example, that the wali is someone like the late Ayatollah Burujardi, or the late great Ayatollah Imam Khomeini, or in this time, Ayatollah Khamenei, for example. Do you see? When a person wants to revive the divine teachings and laws of Islam in society, in accordance with the principles of Wilayah, he finds a way to do so. He learns the different ways and methods that the world presents to the human beings to do so. At this time, however, we are not talking about the ways and means, the methods. Rather, we're interested in the principles itself. We will come to the ways and means in a future session, God willing. So when a society has wilayah, what happens then? To put it in a single sentence, this society becomes like a dead person who has been brought back to life. Please give me a salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So this single sentence sums it up perfectly. Imagine a dead person, someone who has lost their life, who does nothing. Such a person has eyes, but he does not see. He has a mouth, but he does not eat. He has a digestive system, but cannot extract nutrients from the food. He has veins, but his blood does not flow through them. Why? Because he's not alive. He has hands, but he cannot protect himself from the smallest of insects. He has feet, but he cannot move out of the sun into the shade. He is dead. Now imagine you bring him back to life. His brain begins to work. His nervous system works. His hands grasp at things. His mouth eats things. His stomach digests things. His blood flows. The energy reaches all parts of his body. His body becomes warm again. He can strive. He can walk. He can lash out at his foes and look after his friends. He can improve himself and make himself better. This analogy should help us understand the importance of wilayah for a society. The human body is the society, and wilayah is the soul. A society without wilayah has potential, but it is unrealized, wasted, fading away, or worse still, being used to suppress human flourishing. It has a brain, and the brain is thinking, but the thoughts are of corruption, of murder, of destruction, of misery, of exploitation, of tyranny. They are negative thoughts. There is an eye, but it does not see what it should, and instead only sees what it should not. There are ears, it has ears, but they do not hear the words of truth. The nerves do not convey the words of truth to the brain, and the brain does not send instructions in accordance with truth to the limbs and organs. So the limbs and organs do not act in accordance with the truth in objective reality. The conditions of the world do not allow a person to act in accordance with truth. This is a society without wilayah. In a society without wilayah, not only are the lamps not lit, but there is no power, no oil, no electricity with which to light them. The electricity or oil that the Prophet poured into the lamps of guidance has been used up, and the wicks and the LEDs are all failing. Do you see how in the days after the death of the Prophet, they lit the lamps and illuminated the world? It was the Prophet who charged those lamps, who put oil into these lamps. But because the hand of wilayah was not above these lamps to recharge them or to refill them, the energy needed to light them was gradually exhausted, and their light or flames died down. The lights dimmed. It came to the time of the third Caliph of the Muslims, Uthman bin Affan, and power was essentially transferred to Muawiyah, the then governor of Syria or Sham. Do you see what happened? The things that Lady Fatima al-Zahra, the daughter of the Prophet, may the peace and blessings be upon them both and their family and righteous companions, foretold to the women of the Muhajirin, the immigrants, those who came with the Prophet to Medina from Mecca during the Hijrah, and the Ansar, the helpers, those who are from Medina and chose to help the Prophet and welcomed him to Medina. The things that Fatima al-Zahra told them came to pass, but they had not paid attention to her. The things she had warned the Muslim community about were happening, but they had not understood her warnings. They all happened. The sharp and bloody sword, the spear that had killed virtue and goodness, the hand that had smothered humans and humanity. These were the things that Lady Fatima al-Zahra had warned the people about, And before her, the Prophet had also warned the people of the same things. The two of them had foreseen these things. They had warned of these things, but the Muslim society had unfortunately not paid attention to or heeded their warnings. They closed their ears to the predictions of doom. But today, but today, the warnings of Lady Fatima al-Zahra are still reaching our ears. O heedful ears, can you hear her warning? We should reflect on this. A society that has wilayah, in which all human potential is realized, a society in which all the things that God gave the human being for his growth and perfection are safeguarded. The human sapling grows tall. Human beings flourish. Humanity is strengthened. In this society, the wali is the ruler. He is the one who is in charge of all of its different faculties and departments, ministries and institutions. And the society as a whole is walking the path of God and living in the remembrance of God, the constant remembrance of God. In terms of wealth, the wali divides the wealth fairly amongst the people. He tries to promote good and erase evil. Now, the verse of the Quran that we started this session with from Surah Al-Hajj, the chapter of the pilgrimage, chapter 22, verse 41, which reads, "Those who, if we granted them power in the land, will maintain the prayer, give the zakat, enjoin or bid that which is right and forbid what is wrong, and with God rests the outcome of all matters." So if we try and study this verse, so the first line is those who, if we granted them power in the land, will maintain the prayer. Prayer here symbolizes God's remembrance and turning towards God on a societal level. Maintaining the prayer means they go towards God. They organize their life in accordance with God's directives. The second point is they give the zakat. This refers to the fair distribution of wealth. The word zakat in Quran has a very broad meaning. And indeed, according to Imam Khamenei's analysis and understanding, based on evidences that he has researched, as well as other ulama who have said the same thing, the word zakat in the Quran could very possibly refer to all forms of monetary expenditure and charities, not just what we consider zakat, in isolation. So giving the zakat, generally speaking, means a fair distribution of wealth in society, based on the narrations on the topic which say that zakat has this overall effect. The next point is bid what is right and forbid what is wrong, meaning they try to uproot all wrongfulness. We sometimes imagine that enjoining or bidding the right and forbidding the evil, amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar, means that we go and tell someone not to do something bad and tell them to do something good instead. However, this is only one aspect of enjoining or bidding the right and forbidding the wrong. We'll cover this in a future session when we discuss these subjects in much more detail, God willing. People asked the commander of the faithful, Imam Ali, "Why are you fighting Muawiyah?" Imam Ali gave a very comprehensive answer. Now, I'm not going to repeat the entire narration in the interest of brevity. However, in it, one of the reasons he gives is that he is enjoining or bidding the right and forbidding the wrong is an obligation. Pay very close attention here and reflect very deeply on this. The people asked Imam Ali, "What business do you have here with what business do you have with Muawiyah at Siffin? You should go to Kufa and he should go to Damascus." Meaning Imam Ali should go to Kufa and Muawiyah should go to Damascus. What does Imam Ali reply? What does Imam Ali say? He tells them that God made enjoining or bidding the right and forbidding the wrong a duty. Imam Hussein rises up and they ask him, "Where are you going?" He replies, "I want to bid that which is right and forbid that which is wrong." Do you see how broad the scope of this is compared to the narrow way in which many imagine it? When Wilayah exists in society, this is what happens. Prayer is maintained. Zakat is given. The good is enjoined and evil is forbidden. To put it simply, a lifeless corpse is brought back to life. Please give me a salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So this concludes our third session on Wilayah. And you can see from what we have learned so far that Wilayah is a far more profound concept than is normally understood. And that without Wilayah, an individual and even a society is essentially lifeless. Wilayah provides the guidance and direction that both an individual and a society needs in order to move successfully towards perfection. And without Wilayah, it is akin to a rudderless ship, moving in any direction the wind moves it, to quote a colloquialism, getting nowhere fast. In the next session, we will study the idea of the wali, the central authority, and we will learn the importance of the position of the wali, who the wali is, and how to recognize the wali. This is a crucial subject that is necessary to understand. Much of the backwardness of Muslim and non-Muslim societies and communities, nations and regions, is because of a lack of understanding of this, and more so a lack of the implementation of wilayah in and of itself, a core requirement for which is the position of the wali, the central authority. We pray that the ultimate wali, the Lord of the universes, grants us the patience, the fortitude, the wisdom, the humility to understand these important subjects. And more than just to understand, but that he gives us the ability, the tawfiq, to be able to both implement wilayah, which is akin to the entire notion of the Tawheed-oriented society, as well as to recognize and follow properly and righteously the wali, both within ourselves as individuals and within our societies. And so if we raise our hands in a short dua, O God, shower your choicest blessings about Abraham and the family of Abraham, and upon Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, the purest of the pure, the most righteous, the most perfect. O Lord, do not deprive us through our misgivings of the intercession of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, and count us amongst those who are a source of joy for them, and never as a means of causing them any harm. O God, place us amongst your people, for your people are the successful. O God, place us amongst your confederates, for your confederates are the victorious. O God, place us amongst your friends, for your friends are those who never want for anything, nor do they grieve. O God, be always for and with your servant, the Hujjah, the proof, the son of Al-Hasan al-Askari, in this time and in all times. O God, be for him a master, a protector, a leader, a helper, a guide, and a guardian, till you allow him to dwell upon your earth, and provide him with a long and fruitful life within it. O God, honor us with being those who work and serve your Hujjah in his absence and in his presence, and give us the wisdom, belief, guidance, fortitude, and ability to be able to discern the wali in our time, and to always be with the wali and never against him. O God, let us never be from those who sadden or upset you or your creation, and let us always be from those who stand firm for the oppressed and against the arrogant. O God, remove from us any speck of hypocrisy and arrogance, and cleanse the mirror of our hearts, that we can see you more perfectly. Forgive us our sins against ourselves in disobedience to you, and in any harm we have done to your creation, knowingly or unknowingly, and protect us from falling prey to the whims of the devils, be they within ourselves from the jinn or the humans. O God, we ask you to protect the wali of the Muslims in the absence of your proof, our beloved Sayyid Ali. We pray that you grant him health and strength, and if required, take from us to augment his. We ask this to you with your most beautiful names and for the sake of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. O Lord, sustainer of the universes, O most merciful of the merciful, O wali of the believers. وآخر الدعوان أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin. Amma ba'd. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The situation in Kufa was extremely tense, and the Khilafat of Imam Ali alayhi salam was under attack from enemies both internal and external. Plots by Muawiyah and his chief advisor Amr As resulted in the martyrdom of two of Imam Ali's most trusted commanders, Malika Ashta al-Nakhai and Muhammad bin Abu Bakr, who had both been dispatched to Egypt. The loss of Malik in particular was a major blow to Imam Ali, and he wept profusely on hearing the news of his martyrdom. Imam Ali exclaimed that Malik was to me as I was to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. As a result of these plots, Amr As was able to take over the rulership of Egypt and bring it under the control of Muawiyah. This emboldened Muawiyah and his followers, and they carried out attacks against various parts of the Islamic State. However, despite Imam Ali's exhortations, he was unable to raise an army to confront Muawiyah due to the lethargy and apathy within his own ranks. A schism had formed within the ranks of the Kufan army during the Battle of Siffin, which forced Imam Ali alayhi salam into an arbitration, resulting in Amr As removing Imam Ali from Khilafat and appointing Muawiyah in his place. This was entirely due to the foolishness of the Khawarij group, who broke away from Imam Ali's army and forced the appointment of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari as the arbitrator from the Kufan side. Imam Ali did not accept the outcome of the arbitration, as there was no basis for this in Quran and Sunnah. The Khawarij then blamed Imam Ali for the outcome of the arbitration and declared him kafir. They went after Imam Ali's followers and began killing them wherever they found them. A particular incident occurred when the Khawarij attacked Abdullah bin Khabab, who was traveling with his pregnant wife. Abdullah, who had been a cook in the army of Imam Ali, was confronted by a group of Khawarij who demanded that he make takfir of Imam Ali alayhi salam. When he refused to do so, he was slaughtered and beheaded in front of his wife. His wife was also slaughtered, and her stomach was ripped open, and the fetus of the unborn child was removed and thrown into a nearby river. This action forced Imam Ali into confronting this group, and he gave them an ultimatum where he demanded that they hand over the killers of Abdullah, or else he would raise an army against them. When they refused to comply to this demand, Imam Ali went after them, and a battle was fought at a place called Naharwan, where all but 10 of the Khawarij were killed, and where fewer than 10 of Imam Ali's own army were martyred. In the aftermath of Naharwan, the survivors of the Khawarij became obsessed with revenge and even more determined to finish Imam Ali once and for all. A plot was hatched to assassinate 3 of the leaders who the Khawarij claimed were responsible for causing the fitna amongst the Muslims, namely Muawiyah, Amr As, and Imam Ali alayhi salam. Neither Muawiyah nor Amr As were killed, as it seems they received prior notification of the plots against them and took appropriate action to save themselves. Some say there was no plot against Muawiyah and Amr, and this was only hearsay, and that Muawiyah himself was behind the Khawarij movement, and he used the assassination plots against himself and Amr As a smokescreen to mask his involvement in the plot, though this theory has never been proven for definite. The person who was assigned to assassinate Imam Ali was from Kufa, had fought alongside him at Jamal, and was also in Siffin until he split and joined with the Khawarij. This person was Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim al-Muradi. Ibn Muljim had also been in Naharawan fighting against Imam Ali, but he was one of the few survivors. He came under the influence of Ash'as ibn Qais al-Qindi, who was a paid spy of Muawiyah and the person responsible for creating the fitna in Siffin, and through him became acquainted with a lady by the name of Qutama, who he fell in love with and wished to marry. Qutama's father and brother were part of the Khawarij movement and had been killed by Imam Ali in Naharawan, and she had a burning hatred for him and wished to take revenge. She told him that she was prepared to marry him on condition that he bought her the head of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Ibn Muljim was initially reluctant. However, with some persuasion from Ash'as and due to his intense love for Qutama and his desire for worldly gains, he eventually agreed to carry out the assassination. Ibn Muljim knew that to kill Imam Ali directly or in a confrontation was impossible, as he had never been defeated in any battle, and the only way to kill him was during his prayers, when he would be fully absorbed in the worship of Allah. Everybody knew about the famous incident where Imam Ali alayhi salam became injured in one of the battles during the time of the Prophet, and an arrow needed to be removed from his foot. The Prophet told the companions to remove the arrow while Imam Ali was in prayer, because at that time he was fully disconnected from this world and would not feel any pain. Ibn Muljim had been provided with a sword and which was to be the murdered weapon, and he obtained some very strong poison in which he dipped the sword for 3 days to ensure that the Imam would be killed by the poison, even if the strike did not kill him. On the 19th of the holy month of Ramadan, the year 40 AH, Imam Ali alayhi salam was spending the evening with his daughter Kulthum, where he was sharing the iftar meal. He was presented with 3 items: salt, dried barley bread and milk. Addressing his daughter, he told her, "My daughter, did you ever see your father breaking his fast with 3 items? Please remove one of the items." She went to take the salt, but he asked her instead to remove the milk. Imam Ali alayhi salam lived like the poorest in the society, eating only dried bread. Many a time he would not have anything at all to eat, and would tie a large stone to his stomach to help relieve the pangs of hunger. Imam Ali alayhi salam spent the evening in worship. He would stop and look towards the heavens and exclaim, "By Allah, tonight is the night that I was promised. Surely the messenger has spoken the truth." On seeing this, Kulthum became anxious and asked her father what the matter was. Imam Ali replied to her that he had seen his brother, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and her mother Zahra alayhi salam in a dream, and that they informed him that he would be reuniting with them. It was close to the time of Fajr, and Imam Ali began getting ready to go to the mosque of Kufa for his final prayers. Kulthum began to cry and asked her father not to leave and to ask somebody else to lead the prayers. Imam Ali replied that this was a decree from Allah and he must go and meet his destiny. On leaving the house, Imam Ali alayhi salam was surrounded by ducks who his daughter was taking care of. They began to quack loudly, flap their wings, and grab hold of the clog of the Imam with their bills, as if they were asking the Imam not to leave, as they were aware of what was about to happen. He turned to his daughter and advised her, "Please take care of these creatures of Allah and ensure they are properly fed. And if you are unable to do so, then please leave them free where Allah will provide for them." Imam Ali alayhi salam entered the mosque of Kufa where Ibn Muljim and his accomplices lay in wait. He stood and recited the azan for the final time, and his voice was heard throughout the whole of Kufa. As the Imam stood in prayer, the attackers positioned themselves ready to attack at the opportune moment. As soon as Imam Ali entered sujood, they came out from their hiding places, and Ibn Muljim's poisoned sword was struck with force on the back of Imam's skull, splitting it open and allowing the poison to seep into his brain. The Imam did not give out any cries of pain or agony, but only uttered the following words: "Bismillah wa billah wa fi sabilillah, fustu bi rabbil Ka'bah." In the name of Allah, by Allah, and on the path of Allah, I swear by the Lord of the Kaaba, I have been successful. Ibn Muljim tries to run off, but is pursued and overcome by the crowd, who tie his hands and bring him back to the mosque and present him before Imam Ali alayhi salam. His hands were bound tightly and he was clearly in discomfort. When Imam Ali alayhi salam saw his condition, he ordered that his handcuffs be loosened. He turned towards Ibn Muljim and asked him, "Have I not been a good Imam for you?" Ibn Muljim replies, "Yes, of course." Then Imam asks him the question, "So why did you commit this action?" Ibn Muljim felt embarrassed and had no proper reply to give. He only uttered, "The person who is destined to go to hell, who can save him and take him to heaven?" Imam Ali then gave the instruction to those gathered around him, "If I am martyred as a result of this blow, then you may hit him only once, as he struck me only one time. And if I survive, then I will dispense justice myself." Imam Hassan alayhi salam took the blessed head of his father in his lap. The blood was pouring from his head, and his beard had become completely reddened by the blood. As he looked upon the face of his father, his eyes filled with tears and he began to cry. A drop of the tears fell on Imam Ali's face and he opened his eyes. Addressing his son, he said, "Hassan, my dear, why do you cry? Please don't cry. At this moment, I am in the presence of the people from heaven who are sending greetings to me. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is here. Fatima Zahra alayhi salam is here. They have all come to meet me." The prayer was completed and Imam Ali was helped from the mosque, although he was hardly able to walk and had become unstable. Eventually, they were able to reach him back to his house. On the way from the mosque, a loud cry was heard throughout Kufa. "Tahaddamat wallah arkan al-huda, qutila aliyan al-Mortada." The pillar of guidance has collapsed, Aliyan al-Mortada has been killed. This cry caused a great commotion and agitation amongst the people of Kufa. The atmosphere felt like the day when the Prophet had left this world. People of Kufa rushed towards the mosque to find out what had happened. Cries of desperation and grief were heard throughout the city. When Amir al-Mu'mineen arrived back to his house, he was met by his younger son, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The narrator mentions that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had wept so intensely that his eyelids had become injured. Imam Ali alayhi salam walked towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam and tried to comfort him. "Hussein, my dear, please don't cry, have patience. This incident is finished and is of no great importance. Everything is fine. They brought Amir al-Mu'mineen inside the house, took him towards his musalla, which was the place where he used to perform his private prayers. He requested to be kept here, and a bed was prepared for his rest and recovery. At this point, the daughters of Imam Ali alayhi salam entered the room. Zainab alayhi salam and Kulthum alayhi salam both came and sat next to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Both the daughters began to weep intensely on seeing the condition of their father. When Imam Ali alayhi salam saw his sons, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he urged both of them to show patience and not to cry. But when it came to his daughters, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was unable to control himself, and he too began to weep and cry. O Amir al-Mu'mineen, you could not bear to see Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam crying and grief-stricken. Then what about on the day of Ashura? How would you have been able to cope with seeing the condition of Zainab alayhi salam, who had just witnessed her brothers, children and close family being slaughtered on the plains of Karbala? The physicians who visited Amir al-Mu'mineen pronounced that the injuries would be terminal and that Imam would not survive for much longer. Indeed, Imam Ali alayhi salam would only remain in this temporal realm for another 48 hours before returning to Allah, and the beginning of a long and dark chapter in the history of Islam would begin. Imam's close companions and the people began to gather at his house, wishing to make a final ziyarat and gain some words of advice which would be a benefit for them in this world and the hereafter. In his final will and testament, which was written in the form of a letter addressed to his eldest son, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he provides a comprehensive list of advices for his family members, followers, and those who would come later and wish to follow in his way. A few of the selected advices are listed below. I advise you towards the fear of Allah. Do not run after the pleasures of this world, even though they may run after you. Do not grieve and become sorrowful for anything of this world which you have been deprived of. Always speak the truth. Allah, Allah, the orphans. Allah, Allah, the neighbors. Allah, Allah, the Quran. Allah, Allah, the daily prayers. Allah, Allah, the house of Allah, the holy Kaaba. Allah, Allah, jihad in the way of Allah and on the path of Allah with your wealth and your belongings. Be an enemy of the oppressor and a helper of the oppressed. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam's condition worsened. The effects of the poison were becoming manifest on his face. He told Imam Hassan alayhi salam to ask the people to leave and only for his close family members to remain behind. All the companions left as instructed. However, from behind the door, the sound of weeping was audible to those inside the house. Imam Hassan alayhi salam went outside to investigate, and he found one of Imam Ali's close companions, Asbah bin Nabata, leant against the wall, weeping profusely. Imam Hassan turned to Asbah and asked him, "Did my father not ask everyone to leave?" Replying back to the Imam with heavy weeping, Asbah said, "O son of the Messenger of Allah, my feet cannot carry me from here until I meet my Mawla for one last time." Imam Hassan then goes and seeks permission for Asbah to enter. Asbah looks at the condition of Amir al-Mu'mineen, whose turban and face were now pale yellow in color due to the effects of the poison, and throws himself on the body of the Imam and began weeping even more intensely than before. Imam Ali tries to calm him, asks him, "Why do you weep so much? By Allah, it is paradise." Asbagh replies, "I know you will be in paradise, but I cannot bear this separation from you." Close to death, Imam Ali gathers all the close family around him and announces that after he departs, Imam Hassan alayhi salam will be the Imam, and they must all remain loyal and faithful to him. All of the children are called in turn to take the oath of allegiance to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. However, there is a mother and her son who are standing in the corner, who are not called forward. Finally, Lady al-Banin alayhi salam approaches her husband, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and asks him very respectfully, "Why did you not call Abbas to come and pay allegiance? Has he done something wrong?" Imam Ali then turns to al-Banin and asks her, "Where is Abbas? Please send him to me." Abbas steps forward and Imam Ali alayhi salam embraces him and kisses his arms. He then asks Imam Hussein alayhi salam to come forward, and he places the hands of Abbas into the hands of Imam Hussein. Addressing Abbas, he tells him, "O Abbas, I am giving you over to Imam Hussein. You be with him and protect him at all times, even if you need to sacrifice your life for him." Imam Ali alayhi salam returns to his Lord on the night of the 21st of Ramadan 40 AH, nearly 2 days after being struck with the poisoned sword of the accursed Ibn Muljim. Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam take responsibility for washing and shrouding the body. The burial ceremony is held in secret with only the sons and few close companions of Imam Ali alayhi salam in attendance. The body is taken to a secret location some distance away from the city of Kufa. It is reported that a grave had already been made ready, and Imam Ali alayhi salam was buried besides his forefathers, Prophet Adam and Prophet Nuh, peace be upon them both. On returning back to Kufa from the burial, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein heard the sound of a beggar sitting in the street and crying and wailing. They went to inquire after the man, and he told them that he had been hungry for nearly 2 days. He was blind and unable to take care of himself, but a man would come every night to feed and wash him. The brothers asked him to describe this man to give his name. The man replied, "I never knew his name, but whenever I asked who he was, he would reply, 'I am a beggar amongst the beggars, I am a poor amongst the poor.' But I noticed that he had a special fragrance, and I can smell the same fragrance coming from you." The brothers looked at each other and began to weep. Then, addressing the beggar, Imam Hassan said, "O man, do not wait for that person to come. He is no longer in this world. He was none other than my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, the Khalif of the Muslims. We have just returned from burying him." On hearing these words, the beggar broke down and began weeping profusely, and he uttered the following, "O Allah, I do not wish to live in a world without Imam Ali alayhi salam." Shortly afterwards, he too passed away. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
From the darkness of the cave, from the murders of the grave, risen heart and purest tongue, call the lonely to the throne. A voice, a whisper amidst the pain, from the soul declaring the same. No one listened, no one heard. Hatred defined that sinful world. Then a son from midst that soil, one who longed for righteous toil, took the hand outstretched in peace, bonds of love that could never cease. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali Allah, Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali Allah. The earth could never be the same. The sacred house had birthed the flame, joy and heartache from the start, rent asunder and cleaved apart. Holy child and sacred king battled for the souls of men, godly words filled with light, conquered hearts and conquered spite. Filled with awe the people turned, love for Ahmed surely burned. By his side a light sublime, sageous warrior, love divine. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali Allah, Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali Allah. Valley of echoes, sacred word, deceitful water where truth unfold. Those who love me will love him, those who leave him will turn to sin. Murder, slaughter in minds of men, burning hatred for Islam, pagan tyrants and mushrikeen, depravity of the mustakbirin. Mighty warrior Mortada, fearsome soldier of Allah, raised his sword for the world's oppressed, armor of God upon his chest. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali Allah, Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali Allah. The cleven Kaaba foretold the path, some of the saved and some of the rough. Some would be love and some were hate, ascension assured through the city's gate. Her cloak defines the holy proof, lamentation their weapon of truth. The broken hearts and the veil of tears, an enemy forms when truth appears. Too much for they who opposed Ali, his justice, love and piety. They feigned religion and raiment wore, they sold their souls and revenge they swore. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali of Allah. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali of Allah. The garden of Ali defiled, his holy sons would be reviled, his precious joy, sweet Fatima, taken from him in his darkest hour. The beloved of the Mustada'afin, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, lies were spread and deceit proclaimed. The name of Ali would be defamed. Creeping Satans on the night of power, demonic angels skulk and cower, gentle Ruku and Sajda, precious the worship of Mortada. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali of Allah. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali of Allah. The tender teacher of the poor taught the hearts to rise and soar, elevated the Ummah's path, cleave the world from sin and wrath. Martyred they are blessed Ali in the month of serenity, at the banquet of Allah, sacrificed our morning star. Men of Hajj and Dhikrullah, as those who'd march at Karbala, cleave the head of the Holy One, masters of the Satanic throne. Stand all upon a precipice, a choice to make twixt hell and bliss, cleaved unto or cleaven from, Master he, the cleaven one. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali of Allah. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali of Allah. See the Kaaba, still it stands, now it's held in traitors' hands. Those who walk with a faith that's feigned, those who live with a life profane. Cleave they to a life of death, witness they with every breath hypocrisy and evil deeds, while orphans and poor ones they cry and believe. We long to walk with our Ali, a painful path it's sure to be. So we must dwell in Allah's world, divorce this wicked and fruitless world. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali, Ya Wali of Allah. Ya Ali, علي al-Mortada, Ya Wali of Allah. Resistance surely is his way. The tyrants must be made to pay. Take up the fight wherever you be. Put on the garb of unity. The lovers, we must stand as one. Battle hard against every wrong. Inward struggle and outward war. No stone unturned, no unsettled score. In the name of blessed Ali, on the path of Haydari, build this hope in every land. For Imam Zaman we will make our stand. In the name of blessed Ali, on the path of Haydari, build this hope in every land. For Imam Zaman we will make our stand. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali of Allah. Ya Ali, Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali of Allah. Ya 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 Ali al-Mortada, Ya Wali of Allah.
Munajat Imam Ali alayhi salam. O Allah, I ask you for the protection on the day when property will not avail, nor sons except he who comes with a heart free from evil. And I ask you for protection on the day when the unjust one will bite his hands, saying, "Oh, would that I had taken away with the messenger." And I ask you for protection on the day when the guilty shall be recognized by their marks, so they shall be seized by the forelocks and the feet. And I ask you for protection on the day when a father shall not give any satisfaction for his son, nor shall the child give any satisfaction for his father. Surely the promise of Allah is true. And I ask you for protection on the day when the unjust shall not benefit from their excuse, and for them is curse, and for them is the evil abode. And I ask you for protection on the day when no soul shall control anything for another soul, and the command on that day shall be entirely Allah's. And I ask you for protection on the day when a man shall flee from his brother and his mother, his father, his spouse, and his children. each one of them on that day will have a concern which will occupy him. And I ask you for protection on the day when the guilty will wish to redeem himself from the chastisement of the day by sacrificing his children and the near of kin who gave him shelter, and all those that are in the earth wishing that this might deliver him. By no means, surely it is a flaming fire dragging by the head. My Lord, O my Lord, you are the master and I am the slave, and who else can be merciful to the slave except the master? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the owner and I am the one owned by you, and who else can be merciful to the owned except the owner? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the mighty and I am the low, and who else can be merciful to the low except the mighty? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the creator and I am the creature, and who else can be merciful to the creature except the creator? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the glorious and I am the miserable, and who else can be merciful to the miserable except the glorious? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the powerful and I am the weak, and who else can be merciful to the weak except the powerful? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the wealthy and I am the poor, and who else can be merciful to the poor except the wealthy? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the bestower and I am the beggar, and who else can be merciful to the beggar except the bestower? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the living and I am the dead, and who else can be merciful to the dead except the living? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the eternal and I am the transient, and who else can be merciful to the transient except the eternal? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the permanent and I am the short-lived, and who else can be merciful to the short-lived except the permanent? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the provider and I am the blessed, and who else can be merciful to the blessed except the provider? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the generous and I am the miser, and who else can be merciful to the miser except the generous? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the healer and I am the afflicted, and who else can be merciful to the afflicted except the healer? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the great and I am the insignificant, and who else can be merciful to the insignificant except the great? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the leading and I am the straying, and who else can be merciful to the straying except the leading? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the merciful and I am the one shown mercy, and who else can be merciful to the one shown mercy except the merciful? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the authority and I am the tried, and who else can be merciful to the tried except the authority? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the guide and I am the confused, and who else can be merciful to the confused except the guide? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the forgiver and I am the sinner, and who else can be merciful to the sinner except the forgiver? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the victor and I am the defeated, and who else can be merciful to the defeated except the victor? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the nourisher and I am the nourished, and who else can be merciful to the nourished except the nourisher? My Lord, O my Lord, you are the high-handed and I am the humble, and who else can be merciful to the humble except the high-handed? My Lord, O my Lord, have mercy on me by your mercy, and be pleased with me. Be pleased with me by your generosity and your magnanimity and your grace, O the generous and beneficent, O the Almighty and Benefactor, by your mercy, O the most merciful of the merciful. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
Dua Iftitah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. O Allah, send blessings upon Muhammad and the household of Muhammad. O Allah, I begin by glorifying you with your praise. And through your grace, you always direct towards what is right. And I am convinced that you are the most merciful in matters of forgiveness and mercy, but the most severe in matters of warning and retribution, and the most mighty in matters of power and magnificence. O Allah, you have allowed me to pray to you and to ask from you, so hear my words of praise, O all-hearing, and respond to my call, O most merciful, and overlook my mistakes, O most forgiving. How many, O my Lord, of my troubles have you relieved? And how many sorrows have you dispelled? And how many mistakes have you prevented? And how many blessings have you spread? And how many difficult situations have you resolved? All praise belongs to Allah, who has not taken a wife nor a son, and who has no partner in his kingdom, and who has no friend to protect him from humiliation, so magnify him with a great magnificence. All praise belongs to Allah for all of his praiseworthy actions, and for all of his favors and blessings. All praise belongs to Allah, who has no opposition in his kingdom, nor any challenger to his commands. All praise belongs to Allah, who has no partner in his creation, nor anyone like him in his greatness. All praise belongs to Allah, whose commands and praise are spread throughout creation, whose glory is manifested through his generosity, whose blessings stretch out liberally, whose treasures never diminish, rather his frequent giving only increases his generosity and kindness. Surely he is the mighty, the provider. O Allah, I ask you for a little from much, although I am in great need of it, while you are eternally needless of it. And though it is a lot for me, for you it is easy and simple. O Allah, your pardoning of my sins, and your overlooking my mistakes, and your forgiveness of my oppression, and your hiding of my ugly deeds, and your forbearance of my many wrongdoings, performed intentionally or unintentionally, tempted me to ask from you what I did not deserve from you, but which you still gave me out of your mercy, provided for me through your power, and made known to me from your answers. So I became accustomed to call you trustingly, and to ask you familiarly, neither afraid nor fearful, but with confidence in you for what I have asked from you. Then, if there was a delay in your answer, I would blame you out of my ignorance, while perhaps the delay was best for me, for you know the outcome of all affairs. I have not seen a generous master more patient with a wretched slave than you are with me, my Lord. You call me, and I turn away from you. You show affection to me, and I show hatred towards you. You display your love for me, and I do not respond as though I am above you. Yet all of this does not prevent you from having mercy on me, and being good to me, and favoring me through your generosity and nobility. So please, continue to have mercy on your ignorant slave, and be kind to him through the excellence of your grace. Surely you are the bountiful, the generous. All praise belongs to Allah, the owner of the kingdom, who makes the ship sail, who controls the wind, who causes the dawn to break, who is the authority on the day of judgment, and the Lord of the worlds. All praise belongs to Allah for his patience despite his knowledge. All praise belongs to Allah for his forgiveness despite his power. All praise belongs to Allah for the lengthy respite He gives despite His anger, even though He has the power to do as He wills. All praise belongs to Allah, the Creator of all creation, the Provider of plentiful sustenance, who causes the dawn to break, who is the owner of glory and honor and excellence and blessings, who is far and thus cannot be seen but is close and thus witnesses secret conversations. Blessed and exalted is He. All praise belongs to Allah, who has no equal to quarrel with Him, nor anyone similar to Him, nor any helper to support Him. He overpowers the mighty through His strength, and the great humble themselves before His tremendousness, so through His power He fulfills that which He wills. All praise belongs to Allah, who answers me when I call Him, and who covers all of my faults whilst I disobey Him, and who increases His blessings upon me, but I do not acknowledge them. How many pleasant gifts has He given me? How many great fears has He removed from me? How many joyous moments has He allowed me to experience? Thus I glorify Him, thanking Him, and I remember Him with praise. All praise belongs to Allah, whose veil cannot be uncovered, whose door is never closed, who does not reject the one who asks Him, and who does not disappoint the one who places their hope in Him. All praise belongs to Allah, who provides safety for the frightened, who rescues the virtuous, who raises the oppressed, who humiliates the proud, who destroys kings and appoints others in their place. All praise belongs to Allah, who crushes the tyrants, who destroys the oppressors, who watches over those who try to escape, who punishes the oppressors, who assists those who cry out for help, who grants the requests of those who ask, and who is the supporter of the believers. All praise belongs to Allah, in whose all the skies and its inhabitants shake, the earth and its inhabitants tremble, and the sea and all that swims in its billows. All praise belongs to Allah, who has guided us to this, and we would not have been guided had He not guided us to this. All praise belongs to Allah, who creates but is not created, who gives sustenance but is not given sustenance, who feeds but is not fed, who causes the living to die and gives life to the dead. He is the ever-living who does not die. In His control is all good, and He has power over all things. O Allah, send your blessings upon Muhammad, your servant and your messenger, your trustee, your chosen one, your beloved, the best of your creation, the keeper of your secrets, and the conveyor of your messages. Send blessings that are the greatest, the finest, the most beautiful, the most perfect, the most upright, the most prosperous, the most pleasant, the purest, and the most sublime of all blessings. Send blessings upon him that are greater than any of the blessings, or mercy, or affection, or salutations that you have ever sent towards any of your servants, or prophets, or messengers, or chosen ones, or the people of honor from your creation. O Allah, and send your blessings upon Ali, the commander of the faithful, and the successor of the messenger of the Lord of the worlds, your servant, your representative, the brother of your messenger, your proof over creation, your greatest sign, and the great news. And send your blessings upon the truthful, pure lady, Fatima, the radiant, the leader of the women of the worlds. And send your blessings upon the two grandsons of the mercy of the worlds, the leaders of guidance, Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein, the masters of the youths of paradise. And send your blessings upon the leaders of the Muslims, Ali, the son of Hussein, Muhammad, the son of Ali, Ja'far, the son of Muhammad, Musa, the son of Ja'far, Ali, the son of Musa, Muhammad, the son of Ali, Ali, the son of Muhammad, Hassan, the son of Ali, and the successor, the guide and the rightly guided, your proofs over your servants, your trustees on your lands, bless them with abundant and continuous blessings. O Allah, and send blessings upon the guardian of your commandment, the one who will rise, the one who is hoped for, the awaited justice. Surround him with your closest angels and assist him with the Holy Spirit, O Lord of the worlds. O Allah, appoint him to call towards your book and to establish your religion, and make him the successor on the earth, just as you caused others to succeed before him. Establish for him his religion, which you have approved for him. Grant him safety in exchange for his fear, so that he worships you, not associating any partner with you. O Allah, grant him power, and through him strengthen others. Help him and help others through him, and help him with a mighty help. Grant him an easy victory, and ordain for him from yourself a controlling authority. O Allah, manifest through him your religion and the way of your Prophet, such that he is not obliged to hide any truth from any human being. O Allah, we earnestly desire from you an honored state through which you strengthen Islam and its followers, and degrade hypocrisy and its followers, and make us in it among those who invite towards your obedience and the leaders towards your path, such that through it you grant us the honor of this world and the hereafter. O Allah, of what you have made known to us of the truth, help us to bear it, and in what we fall short, make us reach it. O Allah, through him put order in our affairs. Through him gather and unite us. Through him mend the divisions that have separated us. Through him increase our small number. Through him lift us from our humiliation. Through him relieve our miseries. Through him repay our debts. Through him remove our poverty. Through him fill the gaps in our confusion. Through him ease our difficulties. Through him brighten our faces. Through him free our prisoners. Through him make our efforts successful. Through him fulfill our promises. Through him answer our prayers. Through him grant us our requests. Through him allow us to obtain what we hope for from this world and the hereafter. And through him give us more than our expectations. O the best of all those who are asked, and the most generous of all those who give, through him cleanse our chests. Through him remove anger from our hearts, and through him guide us to the truth in disputed matters by your permission. For surely you guide whomever you wish to the right path. Through him help us to overcome your enemy and our enemy. O Lord of truth, hear our prayers. O Allah, we complain to you about the loss of our Prophet. Blessings be upon him and his family. the concealment of our leader, the abundance of our enemies, the scarcity of our numbers, the severity of our trials, and the victory of the era against us. So bless Muhammad and his family and help us to overcome these by granting us an immediate victory and by relieving our difficulties and by giving us help that you reinforce and by providing a truthful authority that you make victorious, and through mercy with which you cover us, and through good health with which you clothe us. By your mercy, O most merciful of all those who have mercy.
سلام على آل ياسين السلام عليك يا داعي الله ورباني آياته السلام عليك يا باب الله وديان دينه السلام عليك يا خليفة الله وناصر حقه السلام عليك يا حجة الله ودليل إرادته السلام عليك يا تالي كتاب الله وترجمانه السلام عليك في آناء ليلك وأطراف نهارك السلام عليك يا بقية الله في أرضه السلام عليك يا ميثاق الله الذي أخذه ووكده السلام عليك يا وعد الله الذي ضمنه السلام عليك أيها العلم المنصور والعلم المسبوق والغوث والرحمة الواسعة وعدل غير مكذوب السلام عليك حين تقوم السلام عليك حين تقوم السلام عليك حين تقرأ وتبين السلام عليك حين تصلي وتقنط السلام عليك حين تركع وتسجد السلام عليك حين تهلل وتكبر السلام عليك حين تحمد وتستغفر السلام عليك حين تصبح وتمسي السلام عليك في الليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى السلام عليك أيها الإمام المأمون السلام عليك أيها المقدم المأمون السلام عليك بجوامع السلام أشهدك يا مولاي أني أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدًا عبده ورسوله لا حبيب إلا هو وأهله وأشهدك يا مولاي أن عليا أمير المؤمنين حجته والحسن حجته
والحسين حجة وعلي بن الحسين حجة ومحمد بن علي حجة وجعفر بن محمد حجة وموسى بن جعفر حجة وعلي بن موسى حجة ومحمد بن علي حجة وعلي بن محمد حجة والحسن بن علي حجة وأشهد أنك حجة الله أنتم الأول والآخر وأن رجعتكم حق لا ريب فيها يوم لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا وأن الموت حق وأن ناكرا ونكيرا حق وأشهد أن النشر حق والبعث حق وأن الصراط حق والمرصاد حق والميزان حق والحشر حق والحساب حق والجنة والنار حق والوعد والوعيد بهما حق يا مولاي شقي من خالفكم وسعد من أطاعكم فاشهد على ما أشهدتك عليه وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك فالحق ما رضيتموه والباطل ما سخطتموه والمعروف ما أمرتم به والمنكر ما نهيتم عنه فنفسي مؤمنة بالله وحده لا شريك له وبرسوله وبأمير المؤمنين وبكم يا مولاي أولكم وآخركم ونصرتي معدة لكم ومودتي خالصة لكم آمين